Welcome everybody, my name's Candace. Thank you for joining me today. Did you know that hand-eye coordination is one of the most important parts of the learning process? Well, today we're going to work on developing our hand-eye coordination skills using balloons and doing 4 different types of challenges. But before we get started, I would like to share a couple group agreements that I have in all of my programs at the club. Number 1. Stay positive. Sometimes we can't do a task perfectly the first time we try it, and that's okay. But today we're agreeing to stay positive and keep trying. And number 2, have fun. All games and activities at the club are meant to be fun, so make sure that you keep it that way for yourself and everybody else that you're playing with today. All right, are you ready to go? Okay. Now we've agreed to stay positive and have fun, it's time to get started. For today's activity, we're going to need 2 balloons, just like I have here. The next step is to blow the 2 balloons up and tie them at the bottom. Let's see how fast we can do that. Okay, now we have our 2 balloons filled with air. It's time to play. For the first game, we are just going to take our 2 balloons and hold them in our hands. We'll begin by hitting one balloon in the air and then the other balloon in the air. The goal is to keep both balloons in the air using only our hands and not allowing them to touch the ground. So we want to toss one up and hit it in the air and then the other. And the goal is to keep them both up in the air, only using our hands for as long as possible. Now, if that seemed too easy, let's see if we can do it with just one hand. So put one hand behind your back and then try and keep 2 balloons in the air at the same time. Let's try it and see how long we can do it. Okay, well, how did you do? Did you think it was more difficult to keep both balloons in the air with just one hand? Well, we're going to keep challenging you because the second game, we're going to hold our 2 balloons, but this time we are only using our feet. So what we will do is we'll start the game by dropping and kicking up, and then we'll drop our other balloon and kick it up. And the goal is to keep both balloons in the air only using our feet and not allowing them to touch the ground. It's a little more difficult. How do you think you're going to do? Well, how did you all do? I thought it was way more difficult to kick them in the air than it was to hit them with my hands. But for everybody who's ready for their next challenge, our third game, we're going to start by holding our 2 balloons, and we'll be beginning by hitting one balloon in the air. So I'm going to call the first balloon our blue balloon, and then kicking the second balloon in the air, or our red balloon. This time, we're going to use our hand to keep the first balloon in the air, or the blue balloon, and we're going to use our feet to keep the second balloon in the air, my red balloon. Just like before, the goal is to keep both balloons in the air without allowing them to touch the ground. Let's see how long we can keep them in the air. Are you ready? So what'd you think? Did you think it was more difficult to keep one in the air with your hand and one in the air with your foot? Well, our last game, we're going to need 4 pieces of paper. So I have 4 pieces of paper right here, and on each piece of paper, I wrote a number 1 through 4. So I have 1, 2, 3, and 4. And those numbers are actually going to represent our point totals because in this last game, we get points. So what we're going to do after we have that written on our sheets is we are going to get some tape, and we are just going to put a little piece of tape on the back of each number. So go look around the house, see if you can find some tape and paper to write your point totals, and we'll get going. Okay, so once you have tape on the back of each of your papers, hang them on the wall. the papers become the targets. So put the target with the number 1 in the easiest place, because you know what? Number 1, that's the least amount of points. So that's going to be put in what I think is the easiest target. Okay? And then number 2, same thing. You're going to hang that target, but it's going to be in a little bit more difficult place to hit. So I'm going to put my 2 over here. The 3 should be in an even harder place to hit. So I'm going to take that number 3, and I think that it's going to be pretty difficult to hit down here. And then I'm going to take my number 4, and I'm going to put that way up here. So now I have my points, a 1, 2, 3, and 4. Okay, so now that we have our paper targets up on a wall somewhere with our point values, it's time to play. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to take a balloon and we're going to step back a little bit from the wall and serve it to ourselves by tossing it in the air and then hitting it and trying to hit one of those targets, just like I did there. We're going to continue to hit the balloon and add our points until the balloon touches the ground. Just like in the other games, that means game over. Let's see how many points we can get. Well, did that seem a little bit too easy for some of you out there? If so, why don't you add another balloon and play the game with 2 balloons? Let's see how we do that. Well, everyone, great job on working on your hand-eye coordination today. Did you think it was harder to hit the balloons with your hands or your feet? Why do you think that was? What other hand-eye coordination games could you play using a balloon? All good questions and things to think about. Anyways, thank you all for joining me today in our balloon challenge, and I look forward to seeing you all again soon. Take care and stay healthy, everyone.